Hi class, Jolene here. We're going to learn how to use mockups that you can get mostly free from the internet. They're Photoshop files that you can use to put your work in to make it look really professional. So let's take a look at how that would work. Let's start with this coffee mug. So here is the Photoshop file. And this tells you where your design's going to go. This is just a design that came with this mock-up. And you can see here by looking at this icon that this is a smart object. So when you double click on this part, it takes you to what's called a PSB file. It's right there. Photoshop, I don't know what the B stands for. But anyway, this is where you're going to put your design. So I'm going to go over to Photoshop and grab my logo, make a copy of that. Going to go back to Photoshop and I'm going to paste my logo as a smart object right there. Now I'm going to get, you got to check that. I'm going to get rid of this one. Actually, this is the one I'm going to get rid of. Okay, so not sure if this is the right size or not, but it's okay. You can see that this file is not saved yet because there's a star right up here on the tab. So I'm going to push Command S to save that. And now I'm going to go back to my coffee mug mock-up, which is right there. And there it is on there. And then you would save this, you would go to File, Save As, and save it as a JPEG file in the folder that you're collecting for your portfolio stuff. So now let's say I decide, oh, I'd like that to be a little bit larger. I'm going to go back to that PSB file. I'm going to do Control T, or you could go to Edit, Transform, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to save it again. And then I'm going to go back to the coffee mug, and there it is. Now it's bigger. So let's try another one. Here's a t-shirt mock-up. So I'm going to click on this part right here because that's the smart object. And that takes me to this. I'll get rid of that one. And now I'm going to paste my logo here. Since I already have it loaded in there, I could just grab it. And now I want to make that a lot bigger. So I did Command T to transform it. Now I'm going to save this. See, it's unsaved. You see the star there? And I'm getting a pop-up that says, do you want to place the file before saving? I'm going to say yes. Now I'm going to go back to my t-shirt. And there it is. Now that's pretty big. So let's see what happens if I go back and make that a little bit smaller. I'm going to make it a lot smaller so you can see the difference. I'm going to save it again, place and save, go back to the t-shirt, and that's what that looks like. And again, you would save this as a JPEG to use in your portfolio. Now, let's try something a little more complicated, but it's really the same thing. There's just more pieces. So this would be for the stationery project you worked on, the letterhead, the envelope, the business cards, the front and the back. And these are supposed to be erasers. And you can see here that you can add a pencil and a shadow for that pencil. So let's take a look at how we get all these objects in here. So I'm going to go back to Illustrator where I have my business cards open. And I'm going to select the front, copy it, go back to Photoshop. And so here is the smart object for the top business card. And that took me to this PSB file. I'm going to paste this. And then you might have to do some repositioning. That looks about right. And I'm going to save that. I'll go back to my stationery, and there it is. Now I'll use this one for the back. So bottom business card design. Go back to Illustrator, get the back of the card, copy it, go back to Photoshop, double click on this smart object to get to the PSB file, paste the smart object, reposition this to about like that. About like that. Save this. Go back to the stationery mock-up, and now there's the back of the card. Now we'll do the envelope. So I'm going to go back to Illustrator and click on my envelope, and here it is. So I'm going to copy that, go back to Photoshop, go to the envelope design, double click, paste as a smart object. That comes in really large. So I'm going to go over to this corner, bring that in so now I can see the address and the logo. I'll place it, save it, go back to the stationery mock-up, and there that is. Now we just have the letterhead. So I'm going to go back to Illustrator. There's my letterhead. This one worked better if I did it in two pieces. For some reason, if I grabbed both of these at the same time, the positioning wasn't quite right. So I'm going to copy this, just the header part, go back to Photoshop, click on letterhead design, double click. Oh, it didn't come through, so I'm going to do that again. Copy, back to Photoshop, paste, there it is. I'll move that up to about there, and then I'm going to go back to my Illustrator file and select this part, the address, and I'll let that get placed and then place this part, and then I'll just drag this straight down to about there and then save this PSB file. Go to, no, it's still loading. Now I'll go back to the stationery mock-up, and there's the whole set. Now, if you don't like these two things here that they're calling erasers, they're under objects, or they're calling them rubbers. I thought maybe there was a place to get rid of them, but I'm not seeing them. You might be able to find it. So, and now I'm seeing this did not line up properly. So we're going to go back to that piece and see if we can figure out what happened there. So I think what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to do transform it, Command T, and just move it into place about like that. Okay, so that's what the stationery would look like. And again, you save this as a Photoshop file. I mean, as a JPEG. So I'm going to show you one more. This is a textbook mock-up that might be of interest to you. For instance, maybe you want to put the design you created for the fantasy photo on the cover of this. So this is the one I did, this jar on the sand. I since this is horizontal instead of vertical like a book is, I just placed it at the bottom, and then I made the canvas larger. So let me show you how to do that. Remember, if there's image size and canvas size. So I increased the height of this canvas. Let me put it back down to about 8 so you can see what that looks like. It's going to chop some stuff off. So that's what it looked like in the beginning. So I'm going to go back to canvas size and increase this to about 18. And now I'll move this up a little bit. And then I just use the type tool and put a headline on it. So now I've got several things in here, and I need to move this over for the smart object. So I'm going to do a little trick here where I'm going to temporarily merge everything. So I'm going to go to, let's see. I'm going to go to right here to merge visible. So all the layers that are currently visible, it's going to merge them into one piece. So this, you can see this is all one piece now. All right, so back to the textbook mock-up. This is the smart object, so it takes me right here. So I'm going to go back and get this and drag it up into this file. And I think I put it in the wrong one, so let me figure out what I did wrong there. Okay, I got it figured out. So let's see. We're going to go to cover top here. Now, here's what threw me off. This looks horizontal and it's a vertical book. That's because it's showing the front and the back. So if we go back here and grab this piece and then drop it down here, we just need to fill this side. So I'm going to line this up to about right here, and then we'll save this and see how it looks when we go back to the textbook mock-up. It's thinking about it. We'll go back here, and there it is. So you can see it doesn't quite wrap around right here. So I'm going to go back to this and make this just a little bit wider and then save it again. Apply. And when we go back to the textbook mock-up, it will have updated it. That is the beauty and the magic of smart objects and how they work together. There we go. That's just perfect. Okay, and again, we would save that as a JPEG to use in our portfolio. Notice you can come here, you could change the background color. Say you wanted the background to be black. There's different things you could do, but then I wouldn't use black because then you wouldn't be able to see the shadows. But anywho, that's how you work with mock-ups in Photoshop.